Hello everyone and welcome to my third video in a series on the game Asia Engulfed, and more in particular this one covers production, Japanese production to be precise, and the dice you see on the board are a reminder to me that it's something that I actually want to talk to you about. So starting with die number one, for one warp, as the currency in this game is called, I've moved a partial carrier-based air marker from the 2 space to the 3 space, which actually means that it's finished, and I will get to place it on an available carrier at the end of the production phase. And if there is no available carrier at the moment, then I can always place it in the orphan carrier-based air, and from that box you'll be able to place it as soon as the carrier does get available. Now, where do I have a carrier? This is actually a carrier, a one-step carrier at the moment, and one step can carry 2 steps of carrier-based air. So this one actually goes on here. This is letter A, and this is letter A as well. So that one goes on there. So one step can carry 2 steps of carrier-based air. A damage step, I'll cover damage in another video. A video on combat, can carry 1 step of carrier-based air. So then you would have to flip it around. So it might actually lead to losses in combat as well, because you cannot land your planes anymore. Anyway, that's one thing I did, and you can only buy as a Japanese 1 step a turn, because it actually reads Japanese air build track. The Allies do not suffer from that limitation. They can complete an air unit as long as they have enough warps available in a single turn. But the Japanese cannot, which portrays or which simulates the difficulty that the Japanese had compared to especially the Americans in replacing their lost air units. Now, I also placed another partial CBA build, a new one. That costs double for the Allies as well, by the way. So rather than 1 warp, it costs 2 to initiate it, another warp to move to the next step, and another 1 to complete it, for a total of 3 for the Japanese, that is. Well, for the Allies as well, but they can pay for it on a single turn. 3, I've moved up carrier. No, I did not do that. Oh yeah, I did. It should be here. I've moved a damaged carrier marker from the 3rd space to the 4th space, which means that it's been repaired, and I can add a carrier step to a carrier in the Japanese homeland. It does have to be, and certainly not, well, definitely not a carrier at sea. So there's one at sea here as well. So I could never add it to that one, because you can only add steps, newly built steps, to areas in, well, not at sea, so in a supply port, and in many cases in a homeland area. So I've also initiated another carrier build, so that one's actually starting there at 1. It also costs double. For the Americans, it costs double as well, and it takes the same amount of time. That's why this production track for the Japanese air is actually in orange, and the other 3 are in green, but it actually applies to both of them. Number 5, I've moved up a partial battleship build for the Japanese from 2 to 3. What I actually wanted to do is I wanted to build a transport marker, which is on the reverse side of the marker, but you cannot do that. The rules say you first need to complete the step that's being built before you can actually switch it around to something else. So I will first have to complete the battleship build before I can flip the marker around and initiate a transport build, which will give me another transport point, basically. And here I've moved a damaged carrier up from 1 to 2, and once it's on 3, I can replace a carrier step as well, or add a carrier step somewhere. Now 7, where's number 7 here? I've bought a special action as well. It allows you to do certain things which are normally not possible. Amphibious invasions with infantry units, so not marine units, but infantry units. For instance, here, well, it's actually a different number, but I could add steps to a contested area as well, which is normally not allowed, but that's something I would be able to do with a special action. And you can also perform an extended naval move, which means you get to move another 3 sea zones under certain conditions. You have to start off in a sea zone, for instance, that's under your complete dominance, so it's not limited influence or anything, it's just Japanese control in this particular case. Anyway, there are several things you can do with that special action, and it just allows you for more, it allows for more flexibility. Here, the oil points and the warps, well, the base warps are the industrial areas controlled along with other resource areas captured. And the oil points had actually gone down to 8 because I had spent them on moving some of the Japanese fleets around. If you want to see more about how that works, please watch my video about naval movement in Asia Engulfed. But each turn in production you get the number of oil points you have, you get them back. Base warps here basically tells you the amount of warps that you start a certain scenario with, and as you capture or lose resource areas, obviously that might go down, but that would be your base. And oil points is usually given as well, but each production phase you add the number of oil control areas you have. For instance, here in what is it, East Sumatra? Yes, well, that one is worth 2 oil points, for instance. Dutch Borneo is worth 1. You add them all up and you reach a certain total, which in this case, and I believe there's something like a reserve as well for the Japanese. They start off the game having stockpiled oil reserves, so they can actually wage the war. So they have a few more, but obviously very often you will find yourself not getting as many as you would like, and it will actually gradually go down. Now, what I forgot to mention is they can also be decreased, oil points, warps, and transport capacity by strategic warfare. Later in the war, they can be reduced by Allied strategic bombing, but for instance, Okinawa has such an airbase which shows that the Allies can bomb Japan with it, so can conduct strategic bombing. So does Iwo Jima and Saipan and some other ones, but that actually is not the case. It's early on in the game. Again, this is the July-August 1942 turn, the tipping the balance scenario. And so that doesn't actually happen yet. Submarine warfare does occur, and ASW, so anti-submarine warfare, are actually rolled for that, and then you have to consult certain tables. Both sides actually roll the 2, so nothing happened. Well, one thing did happen. The Allies start with a DUT torpedoes marker. They start off the scenario on 4, but every time you roll a 1, 2, or 3, which are bad rolls, you actually reduce the DUT torpedo marker by 1 each time that happens, and once it reaches 0, you actually get a +1 on your die roll. So then if you roll a 3, it would actually be a 4, and depending on the number of submarines that you have, in this case there's 5. If you have 15 or something, then you achieve a better result with the same die roll number, and it still goes up then by 1 once the DUT torpedo marker is on 0. Yeah. What else do we have? Well, that was number 8, I believe. Number 9 Well, I've actually already covered that, I think. Well, I've also built, oh yeah, it actually goes with that, not with the torpedo marker. It goes with the partial ASW build. The 10 that you can see on the counter actually reflects the number of warps that it costs, but you can only build one warp a turn, so it will actually cost as many as 10 turns to build one. Fortunately for the Japanese, they did start out on 5, and what it does is you can reduce the, or at least make well, both at the same time. You reduce the number of enemy submarines, so you make the impact of the submarine warfare against your economy a bit less. At least that's the idea, obviously. Finally, what I did, and I believe that's the last warp I had to spend. I was going to say IBCs from Axis and Allies, but it's basically the same thing. I built a garrison unit on Guadalcanal. I read somewhere, I believe in Board Game Geek, that and also from the descriptions in the playbook, it says that Japanese construction forces have been sent to Bougainville, I think it's called. Yeah, Bougainville and Guadalcanal to build airstrips and stuff like that. And then there was a question asking like, hey, do the Japanese start in possession of Bougainville and Guadalcanal? And the game designer Rick Young actually said, yes, they do. So, which is why I placed these two Japanese roundels there. So I placed a garrison unit on Guadalcanal. You have to do that in a friendly supply. You can do that in a friendly supplied area, and you can actually trace through this one because the enemy only has limited influence. Had the enemy had dominant influence, that wouldn't have been possible, and you need to have allocated a Japanese transport marker there as well, which is something I've actually done, so that should be quite okay. So I hope this tells you a bit about production. Again, you will have to read all the rules. There are many ifs and buts and exceptions as well. Again, this is one of the more complicated games that I own, well, so it's certainly not a game you should expect to master very quickly. I certainly don't yet. But as you go through it and as I record such videos, it's really helpful to me, and I hope they are helpful to you as well if you're trying to learn the game. So if you have any comments or whatever, please post them. If I make any mistakes in my explanations, please point them out to me. Again, I'm only learning the game, so it's certainly possible that I do get a thing or two wrong here and there, although I do try to be careful not to make any such mistakes. But then again, if I do, please point them out to me. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I hope that you've learned something from it, and I wish you lots of fun playing Asia Engulfed. Thank you for watching.